Hello, ladies and gentlemen. This is Eddie Marcus speaking to you today on the subject matter bullying. Now, I'm sure that each of us have some idea of what it means to be bullied because I think maybe at one time or another we have been bullied. And I hope that our testimony would not render us also as being a bullied, one who does bullying. But I have experienced one act of my own personal bullying, and I paid the price. I got my tail beat. Learned a lesson from that. On the other hand, I've been involved in defending victims of bullying. I can remember as far back in elementary school, guys would pick on girls. I don't know why. And some girls would be afraid. Some girls would fight back. They put that pencil in their hand and they start fighting back, trying to defend themselves. But guys are usually more aggressive. Every now and then you find a girl who could defend themselves and make the guy regret that he made that attack. But in cases where I saw and the victim was being beat or losing or showed fear, I would step in and defend them. If you want to fight somebody, fight me. And a lot of times they fought me to their own regret. And sometimes I was able to talk them out of it. And when I was in middle school, I did the same thing. I'd fight guys in high school if they wanted to pick on somebody in middle school. And anywhere I would find somebody being the aggressor and the victim was showing fear, didn't want to involve themselves, and this aggression was so powerful, I felt it my responsibility, my duty. Put it this way, I couldn't help myself. And that brings me to the point that I find myself in today. When I see this nation, the people of this nation, being bullied, when I see and recognize through the association of others who are like myself, who witness all kinds of crazy things going on against the public, and they have the boldness to stand up and speak out, even though it's not a public arena. When I say public, I'm talking about accessible to everyone. They have to use whatever resources they have, and for those who are searching, you run across this information, and you find that you do not stand alone. There are a lot of people who are tired of bullying, not just from individuals, but from nations. When I look at America, how America is being destroyed from within by the people who don't even know how they play the role in it, but I can see it. And every effort that I've tried to take outside of, being a part of it, it seems to no avail. But yet I find myself still here talking to you because the power that gives me life gives you life as well, and wants you to know the key, the freedom from this oppressive state that we're living in. That spirit wants you to know that all of this stuff that you're going through, this suffering, is coming from not God, but from the anti-God. And it's being empowered by people who have been brained, changed to this way of thinking. But when I see people who come before you and say they want to lead you, to say they have your interest at heart, they want to represent you, and they can do more for you in bringing these promises about than some other. And I've lived long enough to know that this is all just propaganda. This is all just speak. And that since you have been in your lifetime only having put before you two major organizations, Republican and Democrat, you have had no real choice. And the choices that have been given to you have been designed by the same mother. And that mother is a mother of deception for their benefit at your expense. And still it was given and ushered into our minds in such a way that most of us, are not even aware of it. And so I'm looking at presidents who you have said okay to, who are members of secret organizations, who have private agendas that they put their lives on, that if they tell any of this information, that they could actually lose their lives. And they keep it so secret. And then they come to you, the public, and say, I want to represent you. and they have an agenda that they can't even tell you about, and you go and put them in office over trusting them over you and over what God has given you. This is why we're in the situation of the world that we're in today, because you have not been given God's side of the story. You've been arguing over whose church was the right church, or whose idea about what God was about was the right idea. You've been arguing about what one scripture meant when somebody else said it someplace else, or what some denominational differences existed. You've been arguing about that, not about what the whole message is about. You've been sidetracked, sidestepped, and those things that are most important you have paid no attention to. I am here to remind you, ladies and gentlemen, that the only thing that you should be focusing on is how you can be satisfied. And if you really get down into it, I'm sure that you will find that the only way that you can be satisfied, if everybody else is on your side, that means you have to be on each other's side. That means you got to come up with a way that you have not been taught. You got to step outside of the box, for there lies the answer. And you have to bring that answer back into your world and implement that. And what you will find out, ladies and gentlemen, is that those who have sidetracked you, took your mind off God, did it by trying to duplicate God. God has designed that every wish that you might have can come true. The deceiver has said, yes, it can come true, but you got to have what? This money. See, and he tells you ways to scheme and get money without having to go through the routine that everybody else goes through. The routine, my friends, is doing to others as you'd have others do unto you. You see, when God designed this thing, let me tell you, ladies and gentlemen, let me tell you something, because the anti-God has an idea that if you take the head off the snake, the body won't do anything. But see, I'm not trying to lead you anywhere but to the truth. And once you know the truth will set you free. And let me help you with that truth. Let me add it to the many, many truths that you have and see which will survive. This is the truth from God, that this world is made by God. This earth is made by God, and it can do everything that every living creature on it will ever require of it. And what will it require of it? Are those things that are essential for life, for survival of the individual, those things that permeate that glorious power of God in the creative process. And that, my friends, is what you will do. You will play a part in it. And each part has been given to each of you as your fingerprint, different. And it plays in the whole process of creating that which comes through your mind as being necessary. You do it anyway. The materials are of the earth. The labor is of you. And the people who are getting it is the rest of the world. That is God's design. This money thing is where you give up your soul so you can be better than someone else. I want you to know, ladies and gentlemen, that every human being on the face of the earth is just as important to God and no more. When you hear that Lucifer was some fantastic angel in heaven, so beautiful and wonderful, whatever you heard came out of the minds of man. It didn't come out of the minds of God. No angel is more important than another angel. God didn't make some high-class angels and some low-class angels. He didn't make some high-class people and some low-class people. He did not make some promised nation close to God's heart while others are not. That is man. I want you to understand this one last time. That is man. God is love, and God ain't got no hate in it. And if you see any hate coming from anything, that's man interjecting his way into it. God's way is love, and it will bring love together, even if it takes all of eternity. The devil will not win this, because if one man, if one individual, whether it's a woman, an old person, or a child, can be used to be that glory of God, then the world will survive. Now, what am I saying to you? I'm saying to you there's a group of people who have destined themselves to be able to take over, to be God of earth. And they are not trying to stay here forever, because they know that during certain times they have to expire, and what the process is afterwards, they go through that. But they want to keep it in that family line, in that bloodline. They keep marrying one another, trying to make sure that that power stays within that family, because some way or another, It connects them, and they will do anything. You have recognized the wars all over the place. People being stolen, kids being stolen, abducted, taken into situations that's totally wiping out the population for their own benefit. People who, wives and families who are struggling over stuff that they never should have ever encountered, but they do it because the system is designed to do that, to destroy what God has designed. But being born again, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to say it one more time to you, means changing your mind. Changing your mind about what? About life. Why? Because what you have seen about a better life makes the one that you know look sick. And because you have grown mentally and spiritually, your input now is to be a mirror that reflects that new vision of life into this old world. And your commitment to it tells what God is to you. And what God is to you is determined by what people are to you. Because you cannot show any love for God in hating people. Because though people carries within them the breath of life, which is God. Now, so if you find somebody trying to cut the head of this snake off, understand this. Here's God's way. Anything that you're focusing on, whether it's as an individual, whether it's as a group, whether it's as a nation, whether it is of the world. Who does it benefit? Who does it hurt? God is not about hurting anybody. So if your ideas and your aspirations are there that benefits anyone who wants to benefit from it and hurts no one, then you can say it's divine. But if it will hurt anybody, just one person, then it's from the pit of hell. I'm telling you that. Now, knowing this means that each of you have the responsibility of standing up for what God's way of life is. In God's world, there's nobody hungry. There's food for everybody. Plenty of food. Not just in America, but all over the earth. In God's world, nobody's homeless. There's the best shelter you can imagine for people everywhere. In God's world, nobody suffers from a lack of responsibility. Every man or worker has their own dream job. And in this comes a special blessing, which is joy. You find joy in what you've been given to do. And what you've been given to do is connected to those things that you, the people, aspire. And those things, those new things that come in your mind that God is directing you to manifest. You get caught up in some old world, somebody got their secret agenda. Coming in with some trilateral commission or some council on foreign relations and other organizations, Bilderberg groups, and all they're concerned about is stuff that's secret to you. Secret to you. And you thinking they're going to do right by you. You see they haven't. So I ask you, why not trust God? Now, the main thing about trusting God is this. You don't sit on your loins waiting for God to come down and do something miraculously. You give God a hand. Not just a mouth. You give him a hand and a foot. So you start stepping out, reaching out, and speaking about God's business. But while you're speaking about it, you're doing God's business. This is how God is lifted up amongst the people who don't know God. Not sitting up in some building. The building might be, and somebody might say, well, how are people going to hear without a preacher? That's for people who know nothing about God. Sit up in that building if somebody want to teach you something about God and you want to know something about what people have said about God. But being born again means you have a relationship with God. And when you have a relationship with God, that means that God has given you a spirit that comes directly from the Father to guide you, to lead you in all truth. And you don't need no man, you don't need me to tell you this, because in your own heart, the spirit of truth is there. And you're living. And you become a physical representation of what it is. You might not have the things of the world. Because right now the world is set up that the only way you can get it, you got to serve the devil. The only way you can find it is you got to serve the devil. I know people saying, I got a good job and I'm not serving the devil. It's all connected. The system is designed to produce what the devil wants. And it's a little bit at a time. Today it might seem like you are not a part of it. Tomorrow you'll see that you're dead in the middle of it and been in it all the time. You just didn't know it. You see, you say there's many ways to an end. I'm going to tell you one thing. If it's not by truth, it's not getting there. It ain't getting to God. It might be an end, but it ain't getting to God. Now I'm saying again, what is God about? God is about love to everything that God has created. Even the devil must dissipate. Alright? Alright. I didn't mean to talk this long, but it got good, so I'm going to say once again, this is Eddie Marcus speaking as spokesman and advocate for basic human rights for all people. Oh, don't let me finish without saying this about this bullying. This is what I set out to say. I got a little sidetracked. It's when I see presidents like George H. Bush, Bill Clinton, George W. Bush, Barack Obama, when I see them coming sneering before these cameras and then throwing up these demonic evil signs of Satanism, when they're out here talking about some devil horns and stuff like this and then flipping up those fingers so everybody can see I'm a part of that team, y'all. We got them going. And then every time they do that, they are you, who the regular public, they are sneering at you, laughing at you. That's like embodiment of Satan up there saying, we got them going now. We got them going now. So the power is moving. And you sitting back there thinking, that's my man, that's my president. This is going to be my president. Lord, let me tell you something. Let me tell you something, Lord. When you